Sometimes when you record it, you say, oh no, I want to change the MIDI. So I need to re-record it and to make another take. Sometimes it's just, you could make just the part of the thing you changed. But most of the time I prefer to redo all the take and take all this part again with the good MIDI at the good one, because I'm not sure about if my sound was exactly the same than before to have the good transition, you know.
Yeah.
So if I need to change the MIDI, I have to re-record it.
You're listening to the Freio
Music Podcast.
To the Freio Music
Podcast.
My name is Maestracci, and I play a kind of electronic music. I don't know really the precise style of that. It's not my job, but it's a blend of chill music and electronica, ambient music sometimes.
Matthew, when did you get started in the music space?
It was a long time ago now. I began to learn music at 7. So now I'm almost 40, so there's a long time. I began with piano and classical music. And after that, make a lot of different things. But I really started to have a serious band with a label, with tour and this kind of things. There was almost 20 years ago now.
Nice. And what were you playing then?
I was playing keyboards and guitars.
I see.
And
were you recording music back then?
Yeah. I have formation. I studied sound engineering and how to take the sound, recording the sound, and after that mixing, mastering, this kind of things. So I work in a recording studio in Paris for 17 years now. So
wow.
I recorded every time my stuffs, because it's a kind of the process for me. It's like a composition, because I know that this work will be a part of the final result, and it's integrated in my process.
So every time you played live, you would record it as well?
Yeah. I make a lot of improvisation of this kind of things with my piano, guitars, and other stuffs. Synths too. And I record a lot of things. I have a lot of hard drives full of sounds, and I cannot stop to record that. And after that, pick a thing and go back to 3 years ago and listen what I did this time and find something really interesting. It was not interesting at this time, you know, but now it is. So it's important for me to keep kind of library of what I did all this time. So it's a big place now and kind of money, because you have to have a lot of hard drives and make a precise documents with all the stuff, because there is a lot of stuff, really. But it's important for me to have it. And if I have no idea what to do today and I want to start for new things, but I don't have the inspiration, I go back to this sounds and this old recordings and take a time to listen to that. And sometimes it's evidence that now I have to work on that.
Nice. And after you record and you're playing live, do you immediately listen back like that night or the next day, or do you just keep it in that archive for digging up years later?
Yeah, exactly. It's better for me, because just after the inspiration, it's you're not clear of what you did, and sometimes what you thought it was good, it's not the heart of what you did. You are just thinking about details or sounds or little error I can do at this time. But if I take the time to forget these little things, after that I could listen back and choose, I think, the good thing. So no, not just after that. No, it's a mess.
I see. And so what are some of the strategies that you've developed over the years to be able to quickly sort through years and years of archives? And how do you label your songs or your sets? Do you have any strategies for staying organized in the digital realm?
Yeah, my simple strategy is to note which synth I use or which configuration I made this time. So my files are like modular XXX with this one, with a reverb sometimes. And I know what it is after that, because I know the mood I was when I used this combination of thing, you know? And then when I come back on it, I know what I want to listen. Maybe a kind of moody prophets thing, like chill, but with the prophets, because I know if it was this one, I was in this kind of mood, you know? So I prefer to label it with the synths or the stuffs I used.
Wow. So you're able to go back years and kind of know exactly which set it was based on just the synths.
Not exactly. Sometimes it's surprising. It's normal, but it's, it works pretty well. I didn't need to take 10 hard drive and okay, now it's my day. No, I know I try to go really on what I want. I have
That's
a
great.
file. I have a kind of Excel file, you know, with all my hard drives and the years, because it's per years.
So walk me through a little bit of how you would categorize the various synths and setups in correlation to your mood. Like, you know, if you're energized, what would a setup likely be? Or, you know, if you're down, what would you choose to bring in?
The main idea is that I really focused on the same things for 5 or 6 years. So it's I will not have a disco house thing, you know, or something that I don't play or didn't do or didn't want to do. I keep all the things. I think it will be maybe good for me in the future. So it's always in my vibe, you know, and it's not a question of mood, because the mood could be fine after that, you know, after an improvisation, after an idea that I wrote, there is 3 years ago, you know. Sometimes a melody, you can make what you want with that, you know. The mood is when you work on it, and sometimes it's different mood, because when you wrote it, you were maybe happy, but the song is not happy, but you were happy. But after, when you work on it, say, yeah, it's good, it's nostalgic, maybe, but you're not in the same mood, but you work on it and you give another energy on it, you know? So it's a kind of strat, I don't know what the name for that, but of different mood. And after that, it's me, or it's the thing I want to do. So not a sad song or happy, or it's always a blend of that. I think it's what I try to do.
Yeah, and it makes sense to me, because if you're coming back to it several times and you're performing something live, which you wrote years ago, of course, it's going to be a blend of
and you have to come back on it. I cannot produce a song from the start to the end in one night, or it's not a question of time, but it's a question of taking the time, listen back, think about another thing, you have to have a enlarged time, on that. So it's normal to have a different mood on the second time you come back. So for me,
yeah, I see. And do you create music right where you are in this home studio?
Yeah. That's the place I work for 6 years now. I have an engineering studio really close from there, but with the people I record, the people where I'm working with. But here is the place I work alone. For other artists too, but for me it's everything is here, so it's difficult for me to bring it in another place. And as I told you, I don't know what I want to do, so I need to have it, all the stuff's here, close for me, because if I want to begin a track, I don't know what I want to use. It's difficult for me to go in a studio and take only one machine drums, or no, I need to have it, everything, because maybe I will use that because I think it's good for the music.
Yeah, that's gives you the maximum freedom and possibilities,
Exactly.
having everything at your fingertips. Now, I imagine when you started out, or years ago, or decades ago, you didn't have everything.
Yeah.
So, were there advantages to starting out with less equipment? And, how has your mind evolved as you keep adding tools into your studio?
Yeah, I think I now I precise the sound that I want better than before. I can more in less time and more precisely go direct in what I want.
Now that you have, all these tools, you're able to navigate more precisely and find the sounds you want faster. I'm wondering a little bit about your recording studio outside of the home that you work at. Are you recording all genres, or are you also working with artists of a similar nature?
No. It's for everyone, and we have a different kind of artists, and we work on not only on music too. We work on some movies and making some, all the sound effects sometimes for different movies. So no, it's and it's I think the good way for me to have new things in my life, new music, different artists too, to meet different horizons. And I think it's the reason why today I love a lot of different music. It's because I think I met a lot of interesting artists that I think if I didn't met them, I didn't listen this kind of music, didn't try to, okay, let's try what is this, the one artist in this style, or I don't know, but make a kind of research, and that's why I prefer to keep it like that, not in particular style studio like Blue Note Studio or this kind of things. It's really impressive. I love it, but I want to keep that open for everyone, and it's always a surprise to have new artists. But we work on serious projects, and we have a lot of really interesting projects. Yeah, we worked on the album of Sting album. It was like 2 months of recording guitars, just guitars for the album. So it's always good to record big artists, and no one.
And so 2 months of just recording guitars, I imagine. Well, that there's got to be a lot of different techniques that you're trying, mic placement, different mics, different amps.
We are knowing very well the guitarist of Sting and me, and we have a lot of recording behind us together. So we took the time before to know what it's good for the recording, for him, for the album, for the music. And now we prefer to take the time to try musically different things. So it's
I see.
the reason why we take the time, not for the sound.
So you already had that dialed
Not
in,
especially for the sound,
recording
but
techniques that you would
sometimes, yeah.
use. I see.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I imagine that
Yeah.
working with so many different artists and spending so much time, that it kind of allows you to go deep into different aspects of music in general, different instruments, different styles. And how do you think that you're able to take those learnings and techniques back with you into your studio, where you have full reign over everything?
I can control that because it has an influence on me. Sometimes it's to tell me that I have to take time for me, and it's a mess here, and I have to make other music. No, I'm laughing about that, but everything is good for me to make music after that. Sometimes it's just a reflection about a composition. Sometimes it's a musical thing. It could be true, an inspiration to, and after that we could discuss about, okay, it's an idea to evolve like that in a composition. Sometimes it's just a mindset too, or a way to play. I don't know, but every meeting with an artist is something good for me. I cannot measure it. I cannot tell what it is sometimes, but I know that after that I will be better.
That's interesting.
But yeah, sometimes it's really more effective on me. The kind of big artist. It's impressive, and you have to do a lot of things like them. Try to have the good idea, the good arrangement, the good melody, and it's an inspiration. It's normal, but even if it's young artist, new one trying to record this new first song, it's interesting too to look at this kind of naive artist with a lot of dreams.
Yeah. And are there ever times where you're in a session and it's just so good, and that you go home and you're trying to make music and you're like, well, maybe I shouldn't be doing it?
No, never. I never try to make
see.
music after a session in the studio, after a day of session. No, never, because I think it's not good to do that. So much music from an artist just before that. I don't want to no, and I don't have the energy to be honest, after a day of recording of music and loud sound and precise concentration on that. I could play piano. I prefer to go back at my home and playing Mozart, maybe, or another thing, but to play something to relax and listen other things, because sometimes when you go back in the house after working on one song for the day, you want to listen another thing.
Yeah.
Take it out of the head, but not in working on my own stuff, on music.
Yeah. So then when you do decide to work on your music, what is the setting? How are you entering that creative space? Obviously, it's not a day of recording other artists, but when are you most creative? Morning, evening? How do you start?
No, I cannot really work in the evening, in the night. I have a daughter, me, and I have to go at the school and this kind of thing. So I prefer to work the morning after a walk or sport or this kind of thing. The 3 or 4 hours of the morning are really effective for me. So I need to book in my agenda at least at a semi day, half one day to work on my music. It couldn't be 1 hour, between 2 sessions, or not between 2 sessions, but between 2 meetings or this kind of things. If I have just 1 hour, I didn't light everything, but I need to have 4 hours or a day. It's better.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you're just able to go deeper with a little bit extra time. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I prefer to have 1 day, and maybe if I could have 3 days, it's really good for that. And it's the time I could be really, really effective on my music, but it's not every time.
So when you schedule yourself that full day or the half day or several days, and the time has come, and something's just not flowing easily, what do?
I'm going to run and to walk, sometimes to take a shower, sometimes to take a coffee in a bar. So there's no solution. Sometimes you have to consider that the day is lost and nothing really happens and nothing really good in the music. But I take it, I put it in a hard drive, and maybe in 3 years.
Oh, that's interesting. So you still record it, you keep it, and you never know if it might be recycled in the future. Interesting. Yeah, interesting.
No one knows. But I keep. I prefer to keep.
Well, I'd love to talk about a few of your songs. So we could, first of all, transition to when you started your most recent project and how that came to be and how you started branding yourself as your last name.
The beginning, I think it was because I wanted to have a project that I could bring it where I want to and do what I want to do. And the only way for me to do that, it was to be alone. So that was my decision. So for the name, it was evident for me, as I told you.
Yep.
Because, okay, now I'm alone, not in a band with a label, because I began like all the artists without no one with me. So I will do everything, send my music, do my cover, because I have no one and I have no money for that for the moment. So let's try alone, and we will see. And that was the idea. And now it's like 4 years and a lot of singles and this kind of thing. So I'm happy with that, because it was a kind of big moving in my life to consider that I could do everything just alone, even if now I'm not really alone, but I could do alone, and that's what I want to prove myself. And for the schedule too, it's good, if I want to release something, no one can tell me, but the song, no, it's okay. I'm the only judge on what I do. And I think it's good for me to go, and after we'll see. So that's the reason I think I have a kind of good, I don't know how to say that, but I release a kind of single one per month, and it's maybe pretty a lot for some artists, but I love this rhythm, and it's for me a kind of regular thing in my life now. I have to compose, I have to write the music, and I have to release, at least one single per month, if I could.
Nice. And how do you work with yourself? Obviously, you don't have to do anything, and you get like unlimited freedom. So I'm wondering, do you give yourself deadlines in order to get things done and not keep circling over the same song in perpetuity?
No. The difference with before is that I know if I have to work again on this song now or no. Or not. So I think I'm effective with that. When the song is more advanced, generally it's because I will go to the end with this one. So I know when I have to do every time, because I have a kind of fragments of things, but I keep in head that this one, it's a very good one. and I will do a song with that. And in 4 or 5 months, it's done. Every time I have something to do. I have nothing to, yeah. And even if I really want to touch something different, I go back on this kind of hard drives, But no, there is no deadline because I'm in advance every time with that. So now, for example, I have 4 tracks that is finished, mastering, everything is finished, but not with a scheduled plan for the moment. But this one's are ready, and I will not go back on it.
Yeah.
And after that, when they will be released, I will have 4 more others. I prepare before.
So it sounds like, tell me if I'm wrong, but you have a few, obviously many archives, but you also have a few, like, we'll say a few tracks in focus that you're working on and progressing, but each track might take several months. So do you kind of bounce around within a session between track A and track B, or do you just solely focus on one track at a time?
No, I take one, like 2 hours on one, and after that I go on another one. I cannot stay a long time. Only when I mix, but when I decide to mix, it's that everything is okay for me, and this one will be finished. So I could take like 1 day to mix one track, and I scheduled this time, 1 day to mix this one, and it's written like that in my agenda. But when I work for the composition and arrangement, it's difficult to stay 1 day on the track. So yeah, I take the time to have like 2 or 3 tracks in the day.
Nice. And do you have any strategies for, I don't know exactly how to say this, but like getting out of your head, like getting stuck in your own head because you're working alone? So you might be, over analyzing one part of the song or the rhythm or the melody. How do you overcome those times when you might be stuck?
I don't know. It's difficult. I think I listen a lot, really. I think if he has someone just near me, I think it's very boring because I listen and re-listen and listen, and I don't know what I think when I listen like that, but I know if I have to keep it or modify it, or I don't know. I don't know. It's the natural process.
Yeah, fair enough. So you just
But there
you
is a
loop
kind
it.
of conviction. Yeah, I loop it. I turn up like the chorus or a part, and I listen and listen just this one solo again and again. I let my mind think. I don't know, but there is a conviction in that. After that, it's evident for me if I have to keep it or not, or if I have to choose another thing or record a new thing. But sometimes it takes time, but it's just listen and think about that. And what is the reason of this element now and like that?
And when you decide to discard an element or modify it, how do you avoid like being attached to it and being able to let it go?
I'm not attached in any sound. I couldn't take it anything out. No problem with that, because it could be the main element in another track. So there is no parity or we have to keep a balance. No, if I want to put a drum in 3 minutes at the end of the music because I think it's good. I think that's the reason I evolved for many years, because I'm not attached on some details, because principally you're attached on details and not on the main thing, because the main thing is evident. But when you worked so much on the track, it's not so evident. But you have to think about that. That was the main element. That was the main idea.
So when you are working and recording, what are your favorite tools? What DAW are you using? And how do you generally start out a track?
Yeah, I start every time with the piano because that's my main instrument and because it's really easy to find the harmony with this one better than guitars, even if it's good too. But for me, piano is really the more natural. And if I want to transpose and change the tonality, I'm more able to do that on the piano because that's my instrument. So I begin every time in piano to find an harmony. After that, there is some improvisation with the modular synths, which sometimes gives me a note or a little combination. And after that, I try to reproduce it or to play it with the piano on it to find more a bigger harmony, you know, a more worked harmony than just little sounds, but principally with the piano.
Nice. And when you're playing the piano, are you recording audio or are you recording MIDI?
I begin to record vocal with my telephone to keep the idea because the piano is not in the same room than my studio. Sometimes it's better to keep it just the little thing. So no, it's different with the piano because the piano is the only thing I record in my recording studio because the piano is better than the one in my home. And I record all the piano in my stuffs are recorded in the studio. But most of the time the idea is found in my home because it's more practical for me to work here. And I just record a little thing. And after that, in my studio, I have a controller, a keyboard controller, and I could play, you know,
nice
in MIDI. Yeah, if I want.
Yep. And then, do you like using Logic or Ableton, or what do you like to use?
I am an ancient, you know. I work on Pro Tools.
Okay.
Like
nice.
an old sound recorder. But for the MIDI and for the synths, it's good for me. I'm not a huge fan of native instruments kind of things, you know, with everything in the computer. I have 2 or 3 stuffs because with some artists I need to have it, you know. But for myself, I don't use these things. So it's a recorder and to mix and all my good plugins and my habits in mixing are on Pro Tools. So I stay on that.
Nice. So when you are working on your modular synth and kind of exploring ideas, walk me through it because I don't have one of those things and I'm definitely ignorant, but does it start with just a pure sine wave and then you're manipulating it as it goes, or how does the signal path start?
Yeah, but firstly, a modular synth is not only to produce sounds. You can modify sounds too. So I use a lot my modular to modify the sound I recorded with my microphone, like my piano, guitars, and percussions. So I think half of the parts of when I use the modular synth is when I use the reverb or the modulations on what I recorded before. So it's just a kind of effects treatments.
Got it.
So this is a configuration that I could use my modular. But when, as you told, for just a sound or to do like a bass line or synth, yeah, it's a kind of Lego, you know. You have to put the first, and the first is the oscillators, you know, with the waveform or the square form, you know, triangle form. So you choose this one, and after that, you choose your way, you know, and what you want, but you have to put it one by one and verify if it works. You have your waveform. So after that, you could put an envelope So verify that your envelope works. Okay, good. After that, you want that. Verify. You're building like a house, little or big, but you have to verify that everything is okay, step by step.
Yeah. So you start with the waveform, then you have the envelope. And what do you typically add into that chain? And obviously that could change in a lot of ways, but what is important to you to be at the beginning of the chain and at the end of the chain?
When I work on the modular, I want to be surprised. That's the reason I use that, because it's improvisation, and I don't know really what it happens and what it will happen. So I have a kind of habits of some stuff, and I could say it will be almost like that. But I have to admit that I want to be surprised by what we could do with all this stuff, and trying this one in this one, because I never tried that. Let's try. So there is no process. And that's the reason why after every work on it, I unplug everything. I don't want to keep it plugged, because it's like I will do a preset,
Yeah.
I don't want a preset. So I begin something, and sometimes there is a lot of cable, and okay, I don't know now what is all this mess, but it works, and I have a fucking good sound. So record, and after that, okay, unplug everything. It was magical, and tomorrow will be true. Maybe it's a game,
Yeah, that's beautiful. I appreciate you saying that you want to be surprised, that there is no right way, and that you unplug everything. And I feel like it's good hygiene, just to unplug everything. It's good studio etiquette too, right? Like you just hang up all the cables, it's clean, and then you come in the next day and it's a fresh start. You don't have any...
Exactly. That's the reason why too, because when you say, okay, now I work the morning, and you go here and you work a lot of cables and it's a mess. Okay, I will take another coffee,
Yeah.
And no, it's better if, even if sometimes you have to have the motivation, because you have to begin at the start. It's when you play in the old Mario, you have to begin from the start, but that's the game, and that's what we love. That.
Oh, that's great. Well, let's talk about a few of your tracks. So first of all, I want to just discuss a little bit about the visual aspect, because you are creating all these visuals. So Restless Illusions was the first album cover, an album EP that was produced under your name. And I'm curious about the image, and obviously there's a mirror effect going on, but there's a little boy, and it seems kind of like an old photo. How do you create that, and why did you choose those elements?
Yeah, that's my father, because I had an old tape of 8mm camera of my family, and a lot of tapes. And I had that, and I made a scan of that. I film it on my wall, and I found this picture of my father with my hands, and I love this graphical picture, and I worked on that for my first release.
Nice.
It was evident for me like that, but the beginning is that I filmed these old tapes, these old pictures that I projected on my walls with an old projector and with my Canon camera. And recorded a kind of 3 or 4 hours, and that was my first video clip for the 5 tracks of the EP.
Interesting. So you started out with the 8mm film, projected it onto a wall or a screen, and then filmed it with a digital camera.
Exactly, because for the editing it was better for me.
Yeah.
Than cut the tapes.
Yeah, no kidding. There's maybe a little less pressure too in cutting a tape.
Yeah, I burned 1 or 2 tape because it's old, and the projector was really hot, and one moment one burns, and I had the recording of that digital camera is filming when the tape is burning.
Wow. Cool. Well, I want to talk about one of your songs, Heart. Particular. So again, I'll start with the album cover, but there's an interesting like distortion going on. Maybe that's the burning in the bottom right-hand corner of the album art, and it looks like it's a postcard. So walk me through how you created that image and why you chose it.
Difficult. I don't know what was the inspiration. It's the same that I made like 5 or 6 in the same theme, graphical things with because the idea was the palindrome, because on this EP you have 5 tracks. All the name of the tracks, or you could read it in every line, in the square and the columns, and that was the idea. So after that, I made different graphic on this kind of things with cutting characters in old newspaper and integrating some texture with different elements. Could be a patchwork and a postal card or different things, but a blend of graphical things, old stuffs and organic textures. And that was the only concept behind that. And try to illustrate a track, because this one is heart, so there is a woman with a big heart on the cover.
Nice. And I feel like there's it must be probably a analog synth that comes in around the 3-minute mark, and it's like a really crunchy bass line, and it drops out towards the end, and then there's some loud searing notes, and then it fades, and then it's like gentle piano. So what I'm getting at is that when you are thinking about the scope or the progression of a song, how do you build energy and take it away and layer on in ways that are meaningful and evoke feeling?
Difficult. It's natural to. It's evident at one moment that it would bring it here. I know, because it's difficult to speak about that. It's just an inspiration, to take this time at the beginning. I know it was a song from a beginning of something. It was it was evident that it was the first song of GOP, because it has this long introduction. So yes, I imagine that like a long introduction and long phase of progressing something. But after that, I don't know. It sounded good for me to do that, and the only thing I could remember about that, it's when it changed, when the beat is changing. I wanted to have a kind of minimalist Steve Reich or Philip Glass stab thing. There is a sense like that. I know that was a thing that I worked a lot on this track, because I wanted to have to go on these things, half minimalist American style and half house, electric house, and for the bass, I have 2 sounds of bass. To be honest, I use only 2 synths, and I have my sound for that, because for me it's really like that I like the sound of the bass. So I used to sound one more crispy, like this one, with an attack and a grain. And I have a one I use a lot, really stubby one with with less attack and more circle sound, big stubby sound.
And you layer
So
those
that one
two
of
on
those
top of
two-
each other.
No, never,
Okay.
never. No, there is one bass at one time.
I see.
I try to do my best to have the bass frequency all I want in the kick and bass, but just one bass and just one kick. No more layers. That's the reason I use all this. I don't want to do to mix layers and this kind of thing. And I try to have less tracks, on my songs. I want to have just one sound. You can do that. You can have it in one. Take the time to have it, but not. There is a lot of problems with the phases, with the superposition of sounds, and it's really a mess in the bass frequency, and the masking problem is really important in the zone. So you have to clean all the things. If I retire if I take back my kick and my bass on my songs, there's nothing under 200 hertz, no synths, nothing.
And so you just use a hard, like a high pass filter to make sure that nothing is conflicting in that range.
On every track, I have a low pass and a high pass. On every track, even if I want to keep the low, I have a low pass and high pass too. Setting at 20 hertz and setting that 20 kilohertz if it's for the high. But every time I have a high frequency.
And that's just like a standard that you've imposed for just control of the frequencies?
Yeah, because there's a lot of things in this area that if you don't cut, there is again in your mix and you don't want it.
Nice.
So you have to choose the good parts of what you want in the instruments. Even if it's, if you play it solo, you say, oh, swell, but in the mix, that's this part of the frequency, the range that it's important. The rest is a conflict with other things.
That's great.
That's the way I work, but on electronic music, it works very well. You could do everything because it's not really important if it doesn't seems like a piano or a guitar, so it's to say it's a modification, it's a transformation, but it's good for me for my mix to transform. If it's a folk album, you have to find other solution. You cannot cut the eye of the guitars because there is an artifact or there is a kind of things. No, it's difficult. So you have to find other solution. But for my music, it's really easy. Okay, no low on this sense. Yeah, this is very good when you play on it to have it, but with the bass and with the kick, it's a mess. Okay.
So once you found your melody and you run it through your analog synths to modulate or shape the sound, how do you know once you found the winning experiment?
Yeah, but the process is different because I need to have the sound to find the melody.
Interesting.
Even if I found it before when I play in the piano, so I have to find a melody on it. But most of the time, I have to find it after, or it comes after. Or I'm saying I will find it later. So I need to find not the definitive sound of this melody, but an approximative sound of what it will be. I keep all the MIDI of the melodies I play. I have one MIDI track, and I have different layers on that with different my bass line, my stabs, my pad, everything. So after that, if I'm not really happy with that, I could send it in another synth and find another sound, So it happens that I made one, and another time when I come back on it, no, it's not very good, and I think I have to change it. But I have the melody. The melody is recorded. I did not have I don't need to play it again.
Yeah.
Just send it in the synth and find another sound. But most of the time, it stay almost like that. It's a kind of the one I played before.
Okay. And so once you've got the MIDI line, let's just say solidified, or you're happy with it, and then you're maybe unsatisfied with the sound of it, and you send it through your analog synth and you modify it, you find a better version of it. Do you record? So you're recording audio now.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, and I change it in live every time because that's the process.
So you want live automation that as
every time.
Yeah.
Every time. There is no filters automation on the computer. Every filters are done after with modular or direct on the synth sounds when I record it. That's the reason why I record the MIDI, and after that I send it because I have my two hands to play with that, But I record, and sometimes when I'm not sure of I don't know, sometimes it's the filters, I don't know if I have to finish with the filter as high as that, I record 2 takes or 3 takes, and I have different layers with the filters more or less, because I'm not sure at this moment that I will keep it like that. But I know that after that I could cut and keep maybe just the end of another take before it was less filtered than the other,
Yeah. So are you basically recording, let's just say a 8-bar loop, and it just keeps going over and over and over, and you keep modifying it different takes, and then you can mix and match the takes?
No. I'll take every time before and after. It's better to have after because to have the synth, the sound could finish and have a good transition with. So no, I stop. Okay, listen if I want to listen, and make another one, erase or not. But no loop with that, because I take it before to be sure that my settings are good too, and at the end maybe I will send a delay or reverb, a long one, and I want to keep the end of that. So no loop for that.
That makes sense. So you want to make sure that you keep the tail or the
exact
end of the sound, so that way you don't have a hard cutoff.
No.
That makes sense. So once you've then modified your MIDI notes in analog and then recorded the audio with the tail, do you then delete the MIDI notes? What do you do with those? Or do you mute them, or do you continue to work with those?
If it's recorded, no matter I mute it or not in my computer, because if I don't send it in a synth, it don't play it. So I don't know if it was the question, but yeah, sometimes when you record it, you listen and you say, oh no, I want to change the MIDI, so I need to re-record it.
I see.
And to make another take. Sometimes it's just, you could make just the part of the thing you changed, but most of the time I prefer to redo all the take and take all this part again with the good MIDI at the good one, because I'm not sure about if my sound was exactly the same than before to have the good transition,
Yeah.
So if I need to change the MIDI, I have to re-record it.
I see. And then once you have it recorded properly, do you then mute the MIDI when you bounce and export it?
Okay, but I think because it's different on Pro Tools, you know, if the MIDI is not it's not playing because there is no motor on it, you know, it's just the information. So if I'm not recording my
there's no instrument
synths,
under it.
there is no sound from this track, so it could play, no problem with that. It continues to send the information in the synths, but as I don't record it, I cannot listen it.
Okay, I think I'm following now. Yeah,
I think it's just a technical precision, just that. But I don't have a sound in the computer for this MIDI. You know, the MIDI I use the MIDI only to have the information and the way I played the thing, but not a sound. It's not recorded digitally. You know, I have to send it via cables in the synths to record the sound with the preampli, like everything, you know, like a guitar.
So once the track is finalized, there is effectively no MIDI notes being played.
No,
it's just audio.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, thank you for helping me understand that. I do appreciate your patience with that.
No.
So
okay.
A few other tracks I'd like to get to. So can I just feel?
How can I just feel? And I do.
Again, this has like a really old feeling album cover with like a fade, and it seems analog, you know, like I think of like a fade being gradient frequently, you know, in the digital realm, but this is clearly not a digital fade. And I feel like it brings an aesthetic to the visual, which matches your audio aesthetic. So I'm curious. We'll start with the album cover. How'd you come to create that, and then we'll move on to the music.
As I told you, I love to mix ancient things and old stuffs, old graphical stuffs like that, and new things. And I think it's the same with my music because I play piano and something's really simple and sometimes classical things, you know, and bring it with really modern sounds and treatments. That's the same for the cover, and I knew that I wanted to work with a singer on this one, so I knew that it was a girl to sing on it. So that's the reason why I make this cover. But there is no particular idea of that. I function like in music, you know. I'm not thinking about a sentiment or these things. It's just I'm confident with my taste, and I know if it good for me, it's good. That's the reason why I have this project. I'm the only one of doing that. So that's the same with the cover, with the video, with everything. If it's for me, okay, I like that. It's graphical. It's good for me. And the feeling that I could put it in, it's good for me. And I think it's a good balance to just listen my taste, and it's coherent with my music, I think, too. And I let the things just evolve like that.
Nice. And
Let's see where if it match, try some things like in music, I love this picture. I try to put it here and blend it with other stuff, and okay, it's cool. I think it's beautiful, so I keep it.
that's great.
It's as simple as that.
Nice. And when did you know that vocals were going to be part of that song?
It's because of the sound of the voice. There is one moment, because I think I have like 4, 5, maybe 6 songs with singers. So it's evident at one time that I want vocals on it, and there is 2 possibilities. I could do vocals, but for the background, like in Liguria, one of my last song, I recorded a singer, but that was just to put it in the background and make some sounds of voice. That was the idea from the start. But for this one, I don't know why. Because maybe of the harmony. Maybe when I play it from the start, when I found the melody, and it's evident, it's like a synth. It's like the melody of the synth, At one time, for me, I say, okay, I want a voice on it, and I want a girl or a boy, or I don't know, this kind of voice, but yeah, it's an idea, like if I want to put a guitar on it, or percussions or synths, that's the same feeling.
I see. And then you already have a great knowledge of other artists from the studio. So were you already in contact with that person, or did you have to go out and try and find the right voice to match the sound?
Yeah, you're right. I think another thing that's because in my studio I work with a lot of artists and with a lot of singers and this kind of thing, and that's the way I found the people who sings on my tracks, because I met them in my studio. So I think you're right. Sometimes I meet someone really interesting, a voice or other things, but it's most of the time it's for the voice for my project, and I keep in mind that this one has this kind of voice, and I have like a library in the head of the different people I met, and I remember of that. And when I think this track needs this kind of voice, I make a call and discuss about that, and that's. With Tatiana, it was like that, because I recorded it on music for, I think it was a circus show, and she has a beautiful voice for kind of ethnic things and different sounds of voice. Sometimes it was like from Mongolia, with dual things with the nose and the voice. Really interesting girl and really nice singer. And I say, okay, the time when I wanted to do a song with little ethnical things with the voice, but not particular from a particular part of the planet, because she's really polyvalent and mixing these things with more modern things. And yeah, I have this kind of, different words for categorize these singers. And when I worked on this track, I think about that, and we try, and it was very, very nice.
Yeah, well, it's a beautiful track, and it definitely evokes like a emotion, in my interpretation, which is super broad. But I'm wondering, when you are creating a track, are you aiming for something? Like, do you know what you're going after, a feeling or a sound, or is it very much more explorative?
I think it's an exploration. I try to be ambiguous every time, If it's too much in a way, most of the time I try to come back, and for example, I worked on my new tracks, and I just listened the last week with one of my friends who come sometime to have a discuss about the work, and one time he said, "Oh, this time it's really something, Enfin, it was evident for him, and okay, for me it was okay. I need to rework on it because it's too evident that this thing is there, and I want that it's more diffuse in the ambience, and these things, it has not to be so pregnant like that,
That's very interesting. I think that many people would feel the inverse of what you're feeling, that it needs to be something obvious or
Maybe.
it needs to be reworked. So I'm just curious, trying to get into your mind a little bit, like to understand your appreciation for the abstract or the diffuse, as you said. So why are you aiming for that? And why did you decide to take that feedback as a motivation to rework it?
Yeah, I think you're right. And what you said is very right, because for me, if it's abstract, it's more deep, and it's more intense, because you have to find it. And if you find it, I don't know why I feel like that, because, I'm really fascinated by a thing that we say, the sad major tune. You say, because when you are in the school music, one of the first thing you learn is that major tunes are happy, minor tunes are sad. So that's almost the basis of the Occidental music, So you could do major sad and happy minor. And I think this contradiction between what we are and what we learned about the feeling of the music or the art in general could be inversed, or try to be subconscious, maybe, I don't know, but think about it's not as simple as that. Feelings are more complicated than that. You will feel that, I will feel that for the same thing that we listen or we look at. So say that major is happy, or it's ridiculous. I think it's like racism, You cannot say that, because if you play it very slow with augmented chords, it could be really weird and not sad, not happy too. So music, it's more complicated than that. And the feelings are even complicated than that,
Yeah. So you're saying, I think, tell me if I'm going astray, but that music is taught in schools, at least, in some areas, to be very bipolar. Like it's either this or this, it's black or white. And you're saying, no, there's much more gradient. And in fact, it's not just between those two poles. There's other directions that things can go.
Exactly. I think there is other poles than that, and there is a way, a blend of that is not happy, not sad, not everything, but just reflect to your mind and your feelings just to you. And because it's not because it's ambiguous, but it's because it's complicated and it's personal, And I think if it's not evident, you have to find a way to interpret that, and you will find your own interpretation of that and what you want to listen in that,
Yeah. And do you ever intend for people to interpret it a particular way, or is it meant to be open-ended?
No, it's clearly due to be open for everyone. I think one of my favorite inspiration is David Lynch, the director, and like him, I want to give some ways, some. Okay, there is an idea, there is another things, but to have the complete story, you have to put the links, between these elements, and you could be the hero of the story if you want, like that, because you have to choose that, because for the first impression, it's not evident that all these things tells a story. But if you try to, maybe this one you can take it out, don't think about that. As David Lynch, sometimes there is a scene in the movie, if you want to not consider it, and it could be out of the story, That's the same for my music. Take it what you want, and with that you could have a story. I'm sure about that.
That's beautiful. Well, I certainly appreciate your perspective and putting into words that which is clearly beyond words, which is music. So
yeah,
I do appreciate.
But I don't know if it's clear too, because it's abstract too. But it's a research of taking some things to come back at the center of the things, of the main thing, of the main idea, and the feelings are around that. I think a musical idea is not directed by a feeling or some things around that, and it's what you can the arrangements. That's why an arrangement, we could say that every melody could be whatever you want with the arrangement, if you put some just two notes plus on that, it could change one thing, one big thing, one main thing.
So are you saying that it's kind of like the element is affected by those things around it?
Yeah.
Like the environment of which it lives.
Yeah, that's that. Because when I wrote a thing, or I have all the possibilities around. I think about that when I played. That's why when you told me which feelings or that, I don't think about that. Just, okay, it sounds good in my ears. That's the main thing now. That's good. These combinations of chords sounds good for me. After that, it could be everything. And I will look at that when I will make the arrangements, and I will try to be with a little light. And when it's too much, I have to take it back with another things. But if it's too, I have to put it, it's like when you make the food, make some salt, pepper, and you taste. It's like that. Not too much salt, not too much pepper, not too much tomatoes, just a good blend of that.
Yeah, I love that analogy. It's great. So one more track that I'd like to discuss a little bit more in depth. Kosraru? I don't know if I'm saying that all right.
I don't know too. I don't know too, because I'm not speaking old Iranian language. So
right.
I think so. I think it's Khosrow.
album cover again is a beautiful work of art, but it seems like galactic to me. It like makes me think of like deep space photos of like nebula and stuff.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of different colors and vibrance in this one, which seems contrasted to a fair amount of your other album arts. So, and this song in particular has like a lot of rhythm to it. And I'm wondering, when you're designing the drums or the rhythms, are you starting with a melodic rhythm, or do you start with percussion?
No. I start every time with melodic instruments. So I think on this one, I had a piano or a pad sound. I found the drum and the bass, and after that, I take the pad out and I put another sound on it. But every time I need to work on a beat, I need to have the harmony of what it is on that, because I think my music is more melodic and harmonic than rhythmic, even if it's a lot of beats of this kind of things. But the beats are there to help the harmony. And so it's always, well, most of the time it's after the melody or the chords.
I see. And so what's going through your mind as you're creating something like this? Or maybe when you're editing things or modulating things on the analog synths, do you have images going through your mind, or your eyes closed? Like what are you thinking about?
No images. It's the same thing, I'm confident with my ears, so I for me it's a kind of candy things, I want that it's sounds good to my ears. So that's the main thing that could lead me to that. So for this one, I wanted to have a melodic, harmonic things for the beginning, and go to a really brute things, but I wanted to go loud, but not loud. it's weird, but no, it's more sounds, things that I want to have than feelings that I want to have,
Yeah, so just a few of my interpretations of some of the sounds. I feel like some of them are restrained, like they're held back a little bit. Like you're saying, go loud, but not go loud. And I feel like some of them, could be, right front and center, but you've shaped them in a way that they kind of hold back a little bit or blend in more nicely or cohesively to the song. So when you are mixing, how do you keep certain things in the foreground and then other things in the background?
Yeah. That's what we say at the beginning. So the mixing part is really, really important. That's that's the reason why I take a lot of time to do that. And when I write the music and when I begin to produce, I know that there is this part at the end that will be like really balance the things and make the definitive choices of the things, because sometimes there is some choices that stay until almost the end, because I need to have a more precise idea of the sounds mixed to make this choice, So I want to be every time organic and stay as if it could be acoustic, even as if I know that the sound is really analog synths, but it could live like an acoustic sound. That's the way I want to do the synths, because it's an incredible gear and it could be really like a living thing, like a cello or this kind of thing with its own characteristic and specifications, but it could be moving like every other instruments, So I think about that when I mix, because I play a lot with the volume, with the space, the movement in the space of the elements. And when I record, I think about the filters too. It helped me to have a place in the area. So no, my only thing is to be a thing, not rigid, not square things. It has to be electronic music, but alive electronic music. An electronic music done by a musician. It's not to say that I'm better than another one, but it's just to say that I want to play these electronic things with musicality, with living things. And that's the reason why I try to use groove things, to not be every time on the beat, on the measures that I play. Sometimes that I record my improvisations, that I play acoustic instruments on it, and sometimes that I move some elements out of the rhythm to find an alive solution of what I want to do now. So I think that's the main idea of that. And after that, I mix in thinking that I have a lot of acoustic instruments and that I have to play with that, because I could create a new dynamics with that.
Yeah, well said. Well, I appreciate you again diving into that song in particular. It's a really beautiful song, and it's interesting how just things blend so diffuse. As I'm going back to the word you said, because I feel like it's the best one I could come up with. It's there. Another artist has previously said, like, laying a bed and then things go on top of it, bed of sound, or like maybe the backdrop and then there's something in the foreground, and you had those rounded edges to your sounds, and they seem to fit just so nicely.
Exactly. And I could say another thing about that too, that I think it's really important, because in most of my tracks, I keep there is piano or acoustic instruments, so I keep the sound of the air, on my piano, because I play very, very, very silent, because I have a very big I don't know how to say that, mute things for my piano, to not have the strings that's playing a long time, so that's a mute things on the strings. So it's very, very quiet sound. So there is a lot of noise around, even if we are in a studio, but there is my respiration, or there is movements on the piano, or all the stuffs. So I keep that in my mix to have the things we don't have when we record the synthesizers and the things like that. But we have when we put microphones on instruments. So I have the habit of keeping that, because it's a kind of I part of the sound with, yes, maybe artifacts and noise from me when I play piano or these things, but I love that it brings more organic things at the end than the synthetic sounds that could produce only synths.
Yeah. I appreciate you bringing attention to that, because in the digital realm, you can entirely disregard that. Have no artifacts, or just a pure sine wave, and nothing else going on. But the instrument itself has that natural, the artifacts that you mentioned, and has that natural movement in the piano keys, and so that's beautiful that you're able to record in such a way that you're probably cranking up the gain on the microphones to even get like a good signal to noise ratio.
Exactly
on it, but that's
and I keep
cool.
these things. There is a lot of artifacts like that in my songs. Sometimes the pedals or sometimes the respiration. In my previous EP, there is a part of the piano that I love, and I keep it. And I was pretty sick, so I breathe maybe louder than before. And we listened to me in the mix, and I wanted to keep that because with the percussions, the digital percussions and the digital sounds of the rhythmic, it was things on it that could bring alive my beat, you know,
Yeah.
just with my breath, which is not in the beat, you know, but it brings a kind of cloud on it, and I love that.
That's beautiful. Beautiful. Well, I want to just hit you with a bunch of quick questions that are not related to that track, a little bit different.
Yeah.
But what is a favorite book, quote, or message that has most impacted your life?
I think I don't know if you know with this name, but it's a French author, Boris Vian, which wrote L'écume des jours, which is a kind of abstract story of love with a lot of funny stuff, but with a very serious love story, and one of the most beautiful story that we ever write for me. And why this one? Because of that, because it's one of the most beautiful story of love, but with in a way that it's really different. With it's not funny, it's not sad, but it's sad. So it's all these feelings, plannings, with a lot of pictures, images. With the French language, you know, we have a lot of imaging expression that he tried to. So it's brilliant. Boris Vian.
Outside of music, what are you into?
Cinema. I love movies, and I think that's the reason why I make this kind of music too, because I love the music for the movies, and I love the movies, and yeah, I think that's my second passion after the music, because it's same feeling. A good album, it's like a good movie for me. It's it takes me at the same place inside, you know. So yeah, cinema, yeah.
Great. All right. In the last 5 years, what one belief or habit or behavior have you done or changed that's most beneficially impacted your life?
To keep it on.
What was that?
No, there is no to continue what I do.
Oh, to continue.
There is there is nothing really changed in my life this 5 years. That's I continue to do the same thing, and it's good for me.
Nice. All right. What is one mixing or mastering technique that is underrated or underappreciated?
To use the mono button.
Mono. Okay, I like it.
Yeah.
Nice. Given that you've seen so many musicians coming in and out through the studio, what advice would you give to a young musician starting out today?
To believe in themselves, because I think when you listen music, when you take the time to learn about music and what the others are doing, I think you are able to believe you and to have this confidence in your taste, you know. And I think when you're young, you're so much you and it's normal, but you need it's so much to need the advice of the others, you know, and to listen what the others are saying. It's good to do that, but you have to be confident with you and listen music. That's the main thing, because there is a lot of things and there is a lot of other people like you and or like you before, and to be humble with that, because you're not the only one, you're not the first and not the last one, but like every person is different. You as an artist, you will be different. So just be confident with that. Find your way, because it's the only one which will bring you to a way, I think, because it's the not much boring thing, I think, because it's what you like. So do what you like, believe in yourself, and try to do what you want and not what they say.
So for those people listening or watching that don't already know you, what are the best links and platforms to connect and follow you on?
Yeah, but I think Spotify is the best one, because that's the one I use, and I think the one more people use. So I think it's the best way to find me. But I have a SoundCloud, or I think Bandcamp is a super platform. I love it, because it's really good to support the artist, and you can have extra things like high quality sounds and sometimes it's good to buy some vinyl or physical things. So Bandcamp is cool, but
nice.
if you're like everyone, Spotify is very good. It's the quickest.
Well, I do appreciate you taking the time today. But the last question for you is totally open-ended. Is there anything else that you would like to share that we didn't yet get to?
Just tell to the people to continue to listen music and to support artists. I think it's really important. And for us, even if the music is our passion, we love to share it with the other. And it was a great time to discuss with you. I don't know if I have this long time with someone to discuss about my music in my careers. So thank you for that. It was really, really, really nice. I really appreciate that. So for the one who listen, so continue with that. It's really important, and we love that, and we want to share it with you. And that's our energy to create and to continue.
Matthew, thank you so much for your time today, being very generous with your time, walking me through, the basics of analog synthesization, if I'm saying that all right. And, just the modular approach that you take to music. So I'm really grateful that you were able to articulate some of those abstract concepts into English.
I tried.
I know.
I tried.
Well, I thought you did a great job, and I'm certainly grateful for it, and I hope that others will also find it valuable. So thank you, and
thank you very much.
Appreciate you.
It was a pleasure.
Listening to the Freio Music Podcast with Michael Morahan. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single episode. And don't forget to share this podcast everywhere. Thanks for listening, and until next time, stay tuned.
Freio Music, Freio Music, Freio Music, Freio Music. You are listening to Freio Music.